Hey everyone, welcome to the Midpoint. Today we're discussing the concept of work as a passion, or rather, the absence of it. Imagine spending over 25 years in the same role. You've been super successful, you've climbed the ranks. Yes, you've spent 80 hours plus at the office, but you really liked it. You were passionate about it. And you reach a point where there's no upward mobility. You're sitting at a table with everybody else who calls the shots in the company. Pretty cool, right? But then you come to the realization that the money that you've been chasing hasn't brought you true happiness. Today we'll talk to Mads Holm, a Danish CFO who currently lives in Dubai. He has experienced this very scenario and is now at the cusp of a major life change. Welcome to the Midpoint, Mads.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So you've been a CFO for quite a long time, and you've been grinding day to day, week by week, in this role. Why don't we talk about that a little bit? Sort of, you've originally been from Denmark, but you currently live in Dubai. What got you to Dubai in the first place, and sort of walk us a little bit through sort of your CFO life over there?
So I came to Dubai in 2011, first time in 2011, and I have been here since. So that's coming to 12 years now. I had a small stint back to Denmark, but generally I've been here since 2011. And I was offered a job. I always had Dubai on my radar because I knew some very nice people that had a successful business, and so we kept in contact. Some people that I have worked with earlier, actually. So eventually they offered me a job, and I was quick to say yes, thank you. It was back then actually general management. It later on transitioned into finance. I was a finance guy, a CFO. It was by coincidence that I got the position. I had been employed as a finance manager, and then the CFO resigned shortly after I started, and then I was appointed CFO. So that's how I got to be CFO, and I stayed with that way of my career.
Yeah. So how does your week look like, or sort of how does life look like as a CFO in Dubai?
I think life generally as a CFO is hard work. There's no doubt about that. I think it's one of everything starts with finance and everything ends with finance in the circle, and it's about producing the right numbers. I think that the CFO's job is to understand the numbers and produce the numbers, but it's as much to be the catalyst, to be the strategist, to continuously drive the organization and challenge the organization and help the CEO, help the executive management to ask the questions and see how the company can develop.
To make sure like you have enough
of
cash,
course also
or
running a finance team and doing the day-to-day finance task, and there are many of them. So it's a combination of both an operational role but also a very strategic role. And that always takes a lot of hours. And we operated in Dubai. We sit in the middle of the world. We had business in Australia. We had business in the States. We had business in Africa.
Oh, wow.
In the Middle East. So we were 7 days a week, almost 24/7.
Oh, wow.
So that was a lot of availability. And it was hard. It was, I'll be honest about that, but it also gave me a lot. I worked with a lot of fantastic nationalities. The beautiful thing about Dubai is that it's so multicultural. There are more nations in Dubai than in the United Nations. There are like 200 here. I probably work with 40 or 50 nations. So the multicultural aspect of it, understanding where people are coming from, what's driving them, what's their dreams, what's their fears, has been a fantastic thing. And try to empower them and get the best out of them so that you learn, and together you learn, and you grow the company where you are.
So you've got colleagues in Australia, colleagues in the US. That sounds like you have very, very early meetings and very, very late night meetings as well.
That's true.
Amen. So how does, and Dubai doesn't, I mean, they only recently switched, I think, to sort of our weekdays, right? The weekend was also different. Is that the reason why you said you only have a 7-day work week, kind of? Because it's sort of never Sunday everywhere?
Yeah, exactly. Dubai was, until I think last year, a year ago, was working Sunday through Thursday. because the holy day, the prayer day, was Friday. So traditionally it was Friday off, often Saturday off. So the weekend was Friday, Saturday. But US and Australia, of course, worked Friday. So we often also worked Friday, which left our weekend to Saturday. But because of the time difference in the States, then we often also worked Saturday, and then we were back in office Sunday. So effectively, we worked almost 7 days a week.
Oh, crazy. So walk us through a day, please. It's like, how did you manage to get some personal time in those crazy days?
I didn't have much personal time. For many years, I primarily worked. I just worked, and that became my comfort zone. That was what I was good at. That was what I liked to some extent. That's where I felt safe, and I was very driven by fear, if we are to speak about that. But it was my comfort zone to just work a lot. And it also gave me a lot of experiences. I worked in many places throughout the world. I worked with wonderful people. I've learned a lot. So it also came with a lot of good things. And it was a good period. I learned a lot, but it also came at a very high price.
And what price did that? What are you talking about?
In the sense that, for everything you do, there are things you don't do. So I didn't have a lot of private life. I probably at long periods of time in my career didn't take care of my body. I probably didn't take care of my brain enough. So physical and mental health, I think, is very important. You don't think that much about it when you're young. And you can put in, but there comes a time where you really need to start to think about it, and you never know when it comes.
Did you feel the effects during those 80-hour weeks?
Yeah, for sure. Both.
How did that show?
It your body will start to get in. You become fatigued. You start being de-energized. You cannot. You start getting a little bit sad or depressed or not feeling very well, and regretfully for many people, you can also have some very serious stress effects or anxiety effects that can happen. So if you work,
did you experience those?
To some extent, I was very lucky. My body was probably the thing that took the hardest hits. But my mental health a little bit less so, and I was very lucky to meet my wife that before it got too late, I think got me sort of redirected my efforts.
Yeah, looking forward. We definitely need to talk about that as well. But before we go there, you mentioned you were driven by fear. Like, what was the source of that fear?
I had. I think my two biggest fears were not having enough money, and also criticism or not being good enough. And I think starting with not enough money, I think I grew up in the 1970s. It was a period of very high inflation. There was an oil crisis, so it was very cold in Northern Europe. My parents worked very long hours to make ends meet. There were atomic proliferation. So it was a period where people were just generally fearful, and we were as well. And that sort of stayed with me. And my parents had just bought a new house, and with an interest rate of 21%. That's a pretty tall order to pay back on. Inflation was 15-18%, so that was challenging times. And I just that sort of gave me some fear that all my life was just I was afraid of losing my job, because then how could I pay my bills, and so running out of money was a big fear for me. Strangely enough, I was handling money. I felt I had a good career. It was never a problem, but it was in my world, and it was a big thing for me. Although seen from outside, you would have said,
usually say the gardener's garden is not very well kept, right? Did you have a personal budget?
Yeah, I did. I'm quite disciplined. I'm quite disciplined. I've always
sure
been.
you
I
are.
think that's part of being finance, as a work injury or whatever. So my parents were auditors. So my first job was within auditing. So I've always been driven by keeping order on these things. So
you did you had full control of your finances and still were sort of, because you were brought up that way, always trying to get more. Right?
Yeah.
Sort of always striving to get more. And what made you feel that you're not good enough? What was the driver there?
No, I think many things also come from your roots and what you have had of experience in young age, and it's probably, I would know some examples, but I mean everybody would have had their own examples. But if somebody said to you that you didn't wear the right clothes, or ridicule you for why are you not going on a summer vacation this year, or why do your parents only have that car and not the other car? Or it can be small things. It doesn't need to be much, and it doesn't. Maybe it's the other person that had some insecurity or whatever, but it just ends being an anchor for you, and things where you say, okay, in a world that compares a lot, in a world that's a lot of judgment, then you sort of think that you're not good enough, and what you have is not good enough, and you feel criticized. So I think that was a big issue.
It's also from your childhood side. Yeah. So now you're in Dubai, you're working in your comfort zone. You feel great about what you do. It's like, how's that still driving you? How's that fear still driving you? And well, the job security I get, but sort of your appreciation that you're doing a good job. Did you never get that from your superiors, or?
Yeah, I think you do. But I think also, and maybe I was also not good enough on that side. I always tried, but in the corporate world, I don't know how many thank you actually get. I mean, it's not. I think most people will feel that they are mostly asked to do more, and every boss has a boss, and I had a boss, and I had great bosses throughout my career. I've been very lucky, and I worked together with fantastic people. But it's just. And the thing is, of course, also that you cannot find that validation from outside. And I was looking for that validation from outside, and I think that was a big issue also.
Well, maybe it's also. I mean, I'm not in finance at all, but I would assume that it's similar to like risk or IT. If everything goes well, that's your job, and if something, it's only if things don't go well that people pay attention, right, and say like, why did that happen?
Is what we call, that's only downside. I mean, it can never be too good. It can only be acceptable and satisfactory, and then it goes down from there. That's of course the thing about faith, and that's the thing about money. The only thing that money teaches you is to want more, and that's of course also. I think that because when we talk about business, we are human beings and we are people, but businesses are just a collection of people. So the fact that we have fears and needs, those are the same things that companies have, and that's also why they are sometimes struggling, because they are chasing more.
Yeah, and then you mentioned that the turning point in that situation was really when you met your wife. How did you meet her?
She just walked into my life. I was single, and then we met by doing things the other way around that I would normally have done. So she just showed up in my life basically.
Okay,
and I didn't expect it. I had then I knew. Well, she was, because I was a bit lonely and I didn't need anything. I was just so if my attitude was, look, if I am to meet somebody, she will have to do the hard work. She will have to show up in my life and be the driver of this, because I've been driving everything else, and she did.
Wow, and you mentioned she's from South Africa, right?
From South America.
South America? Which part of South America?
She's from Bolivia.
From Bolivia, all right. And you met in Dubai. That's another perk of, as you mentioned, so many different nations meeting in one place, right?
Yeah. I had never worked in South America. I had no exposure to South America. I don't speak Spanish. I didn't know anything about the culture. I worked everywhere else in the world but South America. I had no exposure to it. And I wouldn't recognize any of the countries, or specifically, I would know the countries, but have no connection to it. And then she showed up.
Wow. Okay. So what happened next? What changed? What changed over that period of time?
She was just she is the complete opposite of me. She's very extroverted. She came with a lot of friends. She has a lot of energy in terms of going out, meeting new people. She opens our home. She just came with a lot of joy and love and happiness and a lot of energy, a good positive energy. She's still a hard worker. She works very hard. She's a special needs teacher. But she's very clear about her priorities. She's very clear on what she wants. And she was never driven by money. She has zero interest in money, zero interest in titles and possessions. So she just walked in with happiness, love. She has a very strong family bond. She has very strong friends. So and then our home is always open. So some weeks we can see 50 people because she just invites them in. She has a party, and they stay overnight. They come for dinner. Our home is always open. It was very, very different from my Northern European.
How did that make you feel? Like, how did it impact you at the beginning?
Was
it comfortable or not?
No. I was very, very overwhelmed. So it was hard because it was 5-6 days a week. Then what she does to compensate that is she does take some days where she just goes very down. She takes complete solitude. She just wants to be alone. She goes inside and she's just for herself. So she does have a big balance in that sense. Mm-hmm. But it was very overwhelming for me. I was not used to it. But I slowly got into it, and then what maybe was a very good thing for us was COVID period came, because that gave us a break in seeing a lot of people, and it gave us a break to just be together, the two of us. We had lunch every day together home. We had dinner. We cooked for each other. We had date nights where we talked a lot about fears and life and dreams and I could start training in smaller doses of getting back into filling my life with other things. Less work, more life.
Just realized that she was inviting these people to your house while you were still doing 80-hour work weeks, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, that must be quite overwhelming. And then you kind of got also the other extreme. Like everybody else around the world, we got locked down. Did you go to work still, or did you work from home in Dubai?
I worked still. I mostly worked. I had some shorter periods. I had maybe 2 weeks, maybe up to a month of working from home. But generally, I was back in the office. Yeah.
Yeah. And I guess she as well, as a special needs
because
teacher.
she was teaching from home. She did that for 1.5 years or so online every day. She had sessions with kids online. So they were sitting with their parents in the other end that also worked from home or however they did it. So she was teaching online.
And then you come home after a long day, and then you still find the time to sit down together.
We had to do that. Yeah, we did that. Yeah.
That's very good. So in retrospect, what changed in terms of like your happiness, the way you look at things? How much did your wife or sort of a girlfriend at the time maybe rub off onto you?
Now she completely changed it 180 degrees. There's no doubt about that. I don't think I could ever have made it without her. She was the change. There's no doubt about that.
So tell me about it. How do you see life today?
Now, so what happened was 1.5 years ago was I came to a crossroad. So work-wise, so I left the CFO position that I had and the group of companies that I've been together with. So I had the CFO position of the group for the last 7 years, and I left that 1st of November 2021. It was my birthday on that day, so maybe that was symbolic. Everything changed. And there was a lot of twists back and forth, but in the end, my wife had also left her job, so we were both without jobs. And then I said, let's travel. So we traveled. We traveled to South America. I'd only been there 3 weeks earlier together with my wife, which was a very rushed thing. So now we took a chance to travel more. A period of the time we stayed with friends and family, and the period of time we stayed in quite very low cost lodges. So we didn't spend a lot of money on it. We sold our 2 cars to finance the trip. No fancy cars or anything, but just
they're expensive in Dubai anyway, right?
It wasn't. It was my wife's car was old, and so was mine actually. So it was about, they were probably changeable anyway at that point in time. But we sold that and spent the money for the travel. And that was. Actually, when I came back, I put it on LinkedIn. I said I've traveled, and I told a little bit about our travel. And one of my friends came online and said, that was the trip and the travel you talked about 25 years ago. So that had been my dream, but I just
you forgot about it?
I almost forgot about it, or life just took me, kids happen, life happens, and you get busy, and you have these positions and fears driving you, and then you forget your dreams. So I with 25 years delay, I did my dream, and it was fantastic. And one of the things was, of course, that I walked a lot, because that was a good and easy transportation, and I walked and connected with nature. And I think that was the ultimate turning point for me, where I just found another life, and I came to be content and be very grateful for what I have, and say, okay, look, maybe it's time to look at life in a different way.
And you came back to Dubai, right? After the trip.
I came back to Dubai after the trip.
Yeah, for a new job, or did you just return first and then to see about it?
Because we still had our residency here. We still had our home here. We had no other plans. So when we came back, we said, okay, let's give it a chance. Let's give it 4 months. Let's look for some jobs. And we started, especially my wife was looking for some jobs. I was still in doubt. I didn't know. I didn't feel that I should go and work as a CFO again. And it just left me a little bit confused or indecisive. I felt that this is not right. Somehow it was not right to just go back to Dubai. After this, I learned so much, and then I started to post on LinkedIn, and I got a lot of good positive feedback. I learned a lot from doing it. I experimented a little bit, and then all of a sudden it clicked for me and said, it's time for a change. So we decided actually to move from Dubai. Dubai has been fantastic. I've always been a big fan of Dubai. It's a good place.
Yeah, it's a great place. Yeah,
but it's a city, and it's a desert. So and we miss green nature. So we are going back to Central South America. So right now we're in a process. We started that process a month ago, 1 or 2 months ago. My process is to sell everything, the possessions we have, and then end up with a life in a suitcase or a backpack.
That's the plan. Oh wow,
that's the plan.
So you don't want to have any station in South America. You want to travel around for now, or what do you say? Out of a backpack?
Yeah, we will travel around for now and then see where it takes us. We have some ideas. I think I have an idea of how I want to end up. Let's see how it materializes. We are open to it. I would like to have a small place. I think I would like to have a dog. I've never had a dog. And then I would like to take some long walks in nature. And then I will either work online or teach or find somewhere to... I've been CFO for 20 years and I think I can wrap that into some way of doing things. And it's a very low cost base. So of course, that is a function of that you can do this for some time. When you have a very low cost base and you don't need a lot, then you don't need to make so much.
Is that what you learned on a trip with traveling with your wife?
Yeah. I just learned that I really don't need a lot. I don't need a big place to live in. I never had a big place to live in, but that was sort of always the driver. I don't need a car. I don't need expensive traveling. I really don't need a lot. I just need a little bit of food, some one-to-one replacement of good clothing. I need my family. I need my friends. I need to read. I need to enjoy. I need to help others if I can. That I feel is very gratifying.
I find it extremely. Yeah, go on. Sorry.
Yeah, so it's a simple life, but I feel that there's a lot of happiness and riches in that very simple life.
Yeah, it strikes me that where before this whole travel, before COVID, the two things that defined you was work and money, and right now it sounds like that's the only two things that you do not care about for the next phase. Is that right?
That's true.
Yeah. Wow. I think money in general is like it's all relative, right? If you look around the world, no matter where you are, there's always someone that either has more or less. And from a, let's say, accounting perspective, it's what your cost level is the ultimate driver of how much money you need to make. And if your cost base is too high, you need to aim higher, or if you can't, if your job doesn't pay enough and your cost is higher, then you need to try to make a change. But in the end, there's always it's a complete sort of a complete disparity of almost nothing to far too much. And I guess there's no right point either. In what is the right amount? Like what do you see? I mean, you defined it with your what do you need, or what do you own, or what sort of but how is, given that you had a budget in the past, do you calculate that right now for South America? Do you have a financial plan for yourself? Did you calculate that through?
Yeah, I do. And so what I actually did very practically was I started by saving 25%. Mm-hmm. And then actually when you start saving and you start eliminating, how can I say, expensive habits, the Starbucks coffee or the Nespresso, or coffee is very expensive. I don't know how much coffee you drink, and meat is very expensive.
It will be cheaper in South America, that's for sure.
Exactly. So location
compared to Dubai.
Location. Exactly. So location is of course very important in terms of for cost level. So first are the habits of what you're actually buying, and then secondly the location of where you're buying it, and you can. There are many beautiful low-cost places in the world that offers fantastic opportunities. So it's just really thinking out of the box, and then you can.
I mean, it's a little bit back to what you said. What defines you, right? Sort of, if Starbucks defines you, then that's going to be more expensive than just a simple espresso at a local bar. Right?
Yeah. Or make it yourself. So I do a lot of the things myself. I make a meal plan. I carefully plan what I actually eat. So yeah, I still optimize. I'm still a CFO in born, but you can take a lot of. If you really start to think about it, you can take a lot of things out in your life that is probably more stressing you than are actually, because. As you mentioned, when you need something and you have a high cost level and you're not making enough money, then your drive will be to make more money, because that will be the natural inclination, and that's just it's a never ending chase.
Because we don't want to change our habits, right? We don't want to. No. If you're used to Starbucks, then you don't want to change that because it makes you feel good.
Exactly.
Yeah. On another note, like last year, we had 2 cars, and I mean, need to add we have 2 kids that need to be driven around from time to time for their sports and other stuff. But we came to the realization that we don't need 2. Like there's definitely plenty of options, especially in Switzerland with public transport and Uber and bikes. That you can definitely live with 1 car, and just by reducing that. it reduced complexity. Just have one car to take care of, one set of tires to change for the winter, for the summer. Only one insurance to pay. There's a lot of things in there that I have to say, like it reduces complexity. I don't realize how that adds up with every single purchase that you do, right? Be it a subscription or not, it doesn't make you realize, like, if something happens to the car, if you need to replace it, that's 2 cars you need to replace over a certain period of time, right? So it just adds and adds on to it, where simplicity often helps to just focus on the things that you really enjoy. And I think that's the hard part for us, right? Given that we're people of habits, or creatures of habits, that we need to reduce. When you reduce that, it's harder to choose between the things that you really, really like and the things that are, just very comfortable. And then doing it. I think the doing it part, not the thinking about it, but I think the doing it part is the hardest. Do you think it's going to be, it's easier for you to change those habits because you're kind of ripping yourself out of Dubai's, like you kind of moving, and it's sort of a fresh start. You can literally sell everything. And then purchase or bring just the bare minimum.
I don't think so, actually. I think because I'm quite aware of that, because you cannot just move. Because if you go to another low cost place, you can still buy an expensive house there, and you can still buy an expensive car there, and you can still.
There's still Starbucks there for sure.
There's still Starbucks there. So unless you're really grinding, but that's it, because those things are so global, and that's also why this is a universal discussion, because many of those bad habits are global. So you cannot just move. You need to grind the needs and the fears out of your system, and you need to. It's a good example you have with the complexity and the add up and how stressful life becomes from all these things. So you need to come on the other side and start feeling the freedom and the happiness and the good flow from having less. Because once you're on that side, then I don't think you want to go back. That's at least my. Direction.
How does your wife and you figure this out? Like, do you talk about it? What do you want to keep? What do you want to? Do you talk about those habits, or is this more a individual thing? Like, you do your thing, she does her thing.
Yeah, and I think we are pretty aligned on it, and my wife she's not attached to any position. She's not really, she's very flexible, and she just engineers solutions where we need them. For cars, sometimes we rent it, sometimes we take an Uber, sometimes we walk, we take the metro, we just mix and match. So we just find solutions. We really don't need a lot, and for everything where we have a thing we want to do or experience, then we find a solution that is normally low cost, and we are not committed to anything. We use it, and then we walk away from it.
Yeah. You mentioned meal planning before. Now it sounds like you're trying to catch up with what you've lost sort of in the past when you were busy, and you said you took a physical and mental toll. How do you take care of yourself these days, both mentally and physically?
I think so physically I walk a lot. Even here in Dubai, I walk 10 to 15 kilometers every day. That takes some time, but I have the time now, and I value it. I also sometimes do some simple body weight exercises. So there's no expensive gym. There's nothing that just body weight. A concept that developed when I traveled a lot, because I always came to different gyms and different, can we train here or can we not train here? So I just decided, look, I'll develop a system of bodyweight training that I can always use. So that's very simple. On the mental health side, I write, and I go inside myself. I meditate to some extent, but also the walk is very meditative. Sometimes I walk with music. Oftentimes I walk without music. And even in the roaring noise of the city, you can actually hear the birds sing. You can get some music rhythm out of all the traffic noise, all of the construction work. So walking just becomes a meditation, and that's where I get most of my thinking done. And then I go home and write.
Yeah. There's a lot of things you can do while walking. I agree. Like when you listen to music, I'm not a big music listener. but I listen to a lot of podcasts, a lot of audiobooks, and it just takes my mind completely somewhere else. But it's completely the opposite to what you describe. So I like, you need to take out those earbuds and not, like, if you want to go inside you want to think about sort of what's happening, or basically train your mindfulness with your surroundings, like no distractions. I even got to a point with my Apple Watch that I leave my phone at home nowadays, because I can be called, they can call me, but nothing else, no AirPods, nothing. And that way it just forces me to, the mind starts all automatically by itself, right? When you walk.
Yeah, exactly. I have a small exercise where I think of my head as a glass of water that is full, and then it's like balancing that glass of water so that you just keep it completely still and see how long you can do that, and continue to search back to that, and then at the same time be open for all the music or the rhythm that is around you, and then you can create complete stillness in your head, and it's a wonderful, wonderful feeling.
Oh, I've never heard that. That sounds interesting. I need to try that. Oh. Amazing. Now, aside from your physical and mental health, like when you described your wife at the beginning, she seems to be very open to, especially to your social surroundings, and to herself. That's sounded also like what you really enjoyed when you were traveling, visiting the family, and also what you're planning to do in your near future. How do you define happiness from your perspective? Is it more the personal connections to other people? Is that at the core, or what do you believe is the most important thing to make us happy?
I think that, I think you find happiness inside, and I think that's my continuous learning. Because of course, also, if you base yourself on your wife, too much on your wife, or too much on your family or your friends, when things, then if something happens or you have a loss, then it will hit very hard. So of course you can love, and you should love and have a lot of that in your life. I think that's a big part of happiness, to have a good partner. But it's also to find it inside, and to know that you are enough and you're good enough, and that if you are happy, then you make other people happy, and they will make you happy, and then things start to get into a harmony. So I think also in that sense, it's a balance. I think you need to take care of yourself and nurture yourself, so that then you can nurture others, and then you can have good relationships from there on.
So what do you, if just to make it more tangible, like what would you say should you stop doing, and what would you recommend to start doing for the people that are listening to be more happy?
To be more happy? My wonder pill is to take a very long walk in nature. And just leave your mobile phone home, leave your AirPods home. Just take a very long walk. Just walk. You will eventually find happiness. You will find that you connect with nature. You will see the awe of nature. You will come back to your roots, and you will be showered with happiness. And there you find it. And there you find just awe and just nothingness. There is nothing. You just see the scenery, the green, the blue, the white, whatever it is, and be amazed by that. So you can, and when you get to that zone, you will never need anything more. So the more you can get back to that zone, the more you can start coming into a direction of more happiness. So my wonder advice is take a very long walk in nature.
I mean, and if I may just add this, so by doing that, and I really like it. I love going for a walk as well. You're basically filtering out things that are either in the past or in the future. So you're a lot more present in the moment. What you're describing is also sort of being grateful for what you have, and that's sometimes when you look at nature, or sort of that's an effect that you're getting as well from just observation as you walk around. But I think in the day-to-day, that is important too. You talked about it financially, right? Sort of that you think about sort of what you have instead of what you're running after. And one thing that I often feel is completely lost in our day to day when you're being rushed around is sort of us taking time to just slow down and do nothing. Or sort of basically what we don't have enough of is time, although we do. It's just the perception of how quickly you spend it, or sort of how you spend it, right? Whether you're being watching TV or being distracted, being social on your mobile phone, although you actually, those connections are not the same as a one-to-one conversation. It feels often very, rushed, although time just passes the same way as we do. So what I often say to people is sit down between two meetings. Even if you have just 5 minutes till the next meeting, sit down in a corner, watch the corner, and do nothing. Like those 5 minutes feel like an eternity if you do it the first time, right? So I think that effect of walking with nothing, no distraction, also feels a lot longer. I mean, you're going for walks for like 10 kilometers, 15 kilometers. That's really far. Like even if just 5 kilometers will take you an hour, and an hour might already be sort of enough if you do it for the first few times, right? In that phase, that hour feels a lot longer, and I'm sure your daily walks, they must be taking 2 hours plus each day. So you'll be getting. I mean, that's a lot of time to reflect. How do you do that over time? It's like you just take wherever the mind takes you, or I mean, you're not the exercise that you described. I don't think you do that for 2.5 hours, right? How do you split up your walks? Do you think about different things over time? Do you basically exercise also in splitting those up into different thought exercises?
I mostly think. I mostly reflect on life, and I try to observe, and I try to think about. I split it. I mostly think, and thoughts are very fleeting, and that's why you can, you walk into a room, you had a purpose, and then you forget why you went there. So I have my mobile phone with me, but I don't. It's completely disconnected. So I just take it. I use it for notes. I take some quick notes, or just put a voice message to myself so I can remember what I was thinking about. And I do that every maybe 10, 15 minutes. It's not nothing forced, nothing rushed. I just let things happen. I really try to be in that calm state and just walk and enjoy it and be in a good space. And then when I think about something, feel something, then maybe I'll stop for 30 seconds, just record a voice message, and then move on. I stop when I do that, and then I walk on.
That is good. Yeah, when I go cycling, I hate that because you get to some point that you want to write something down, and it's really hard when you're cycling to just do that while cycling. So you really should stop. You really need to stop. And that's definitely the right way to go about it, sort of to compartmentalize, write the notes down, and then just continue. Sometimes I try to give myself an exercise, especially when swimming. There is this now, you can listen to something while you're swimming as well. You used to, in the past, you weren't able to do that. I'm never going to get one of those headsets because while swimming, you're really forced to just nothing. You just do your thought. Whenever I exercise, I basically go there with a problem. I think about sort of for the next 30 minutes or 45 minutes, this is what I'm going to sort of think about. Sure. It's a lot harder when cycling and or walking because you're a lot more flexible. And if you bring your phone, there's the distraction possibilities is so much easier, right? Compared to swimming. But yeah, it's a good thing to take. I think it's a good thing to take notes. So basically offload that thought. It's there. You wrote it down. You don't need to think about it again, and then you have your mind free again for something else. Yeah. So if you can give us one more thought aside, the gem of going for a walk. If there's anything else, sort of if you want to pass on to all the young folks out there that do not have so many experiences made as you did, just to help them maybe find a little bit more happiness in their day-to-day life, what would it be?
I think that at any income level and wealth, I could have been rich and happy. I could have enjoyed life. I think that have a good partner, value your family, be grateful for what you have. have some great friends, be together with people that you learn from that are smarter than you, and get the best out of life, because life is fantastic. But don't chase and don't work too hard and don't burn yourself. I did that. I wish I could have known that a bit earlier in my life, but at 48 I realized, and that still leaves me another 50 good years. So I'm optimistic.
I hope so. Yeah, that's very good. Couldn't have said it better. Oh, love it. Thank you so much, Mads, for being on the show with us. I really appreciate it that you took time out of your day. I wish you all the best for you, sort of the big life change that is coming up, and hopefully we can chat again in a couple of months to see how you're doing.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, everybody, for listening. Thank you, Mads. If you like the show, please give a thumbs up, subscribe, leave a comment or a review. We'd really appreciate it. And hopefully we'll see you next week for our next episode. Have a great week. Bye, everyone.